Hello and welcome to Kingston Now. I'm Jimmy Buff. This week we're taking a look at some of the great culture that happens in Kingston, much of it at the Ulster Performing Arts Center. We're also going to talk to a group of people who want to bring free outdoor movies to some of Kingston City's parks this summer. First, though, it's Chris Silva, the executive director of both the Bardavon in Poughkeepsie and UPAC in Kingston. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Jimmy.
So you've got an interesting background. I saw you profiled in Ulster magazine back in, I think it was January. And you were, what, an actor and a director?
Yeah, in San Francisco in the good old days, in the late 60s, early 70s. And I started a theater in a commune on Pine Street in San Francisco. And we got closed down very quickly by the police, but then we moved to a church basement, which always makes a great theater. And we did a lot of great stuff back in those days for no money, and we built up a great reputation, and that's where I learned a lot from that. Yeah.
So how did you end up in the Hudson Valley? You've been running the Bardavon since, what, 1994 or
Exactly, yeah, 94. Well, I moved to New York City in 79, and I did a lot of producing and directing there for a number of years. And I met my wife there, Casey Curdy, who's a writer, and I produced one of her plays back in the late 80s. And it got picked up by Columbia Pictures, and they gave us a big bag of money. And we were like, well, do we want to blow it in New York? Or we used to visit the Hudson Valley a lot. My wife went to SUNY New Paltz, so she had friends up here. So we knew the area, so we said, well, let's look. And we went. We looked, we found, we moved, and never regret it. Raised our family here, and it's beautiful here.
So you've been running the Bardavon for almost 20 years, and then a few years back you struck up a partnership to run UPAC in Kingston, here in Kingston.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, we were, before that, actually in 1999, we took over the Hudson Valley Philharmonic, who had fallen on bad times, and that ended up being a very successful move for us and for the orchestra. And then in 2005, we were approached by members of the board of UPAC about helping solve their problems, and basically we came to the conclusion that the best way to solve the problem was to take over the operation, because it's a lot of work to transform a space, and that's what we did. In 06 we began managing it. By 07 we had merged the operation into ours. The theater had a lot of debt, some of which we're still carrying. It had a lot of capital issues. We solved almost $2 million worth of problems when we first took over. But mostly what we did was to bring really top artists on a regular basis into the space. And in 06, 07, and into 08, it was like a house of fire. We really were delivering a lot of great artists. I mean, it's who's who. I mean, from Queen Latifah to Lou Reed to Yo-Yo Ma and Itzhak Perlman to you name it. I mean, it was great. And we continue to do that, though, the last few years has been difficult for us and for everybody in the world since the recession hit. So, we continue to bring top artists, but it's harder and harder.
Tell me about the facility itself, the theater that is UPAC.
Well, it's a beautiful space. It's 1927 is when it was built, which therein lies some of the problems. But if anybody owns an old house and you have 1,500 people walking through it every week, a lot of wear and tear. But the HVAC system is really in bad shape, and we're just sort of gaffer taping it together until we can raise the funds to replace it, really. We've done a lot of facade work to stop leaks from coming in the bricks and mortar. We've done a lot of roof work. We've done some plumbing. Like I say, we've done almost $2 million worth of work, but there's easily $3 million worth of work left to do. More roofs, more bricks and mortar. The restroom situation is ridiculous. I mean, there's like three toilets down on the first floor, and there's 1,000 seats, so you can imagine. Though people deal, I mean, the audiences are great, but also the space, it has 600 more seats than the Bardavon, 1,500 seats. So it allows us to bring bigger acts without charging enormous ticket prices. And it also allows us to actually earn money, to make money, which is important in our operation. And the acoustics in the place are fantastic. I mean, it's a great hall for anything, for classical music or rock and roll, it doesn't really matter, or speakers. Garrison Keillor loved the space, he's been there a couple times. I mean, it's, the city of Kingston is very fortunate to have a theater like UPAC, and we're very fortunate to be running it.
And indeed, I've read that it's the only theater of its size between New York and Albany.
So they say.
So they say.
That's what they
Terrific.
say. Yeah.
We'll talk more about that when we come back.
All
okay?
right, great.
You're watching Kingston Now. More with Chris Silva in a moment. Welcome back to Kingston Now. This week we're talking about some of the great shows and events in Kingston with Chris Silva, the Executive Director of the Ulster Performing Arts Center. And Chris, how important is culture to a city, particularly Kingston?
Critical importance. You know, it's not just the shows on the stage, it's what it does economically for the city. Every time we have a show, there could be 1,000 to 1,500 people show up. A lot of those people go out to eat dinner before or after the show, and that fills, I mean, we basically fill most of the restaurants in Kingston, uptown, midtown, and downtown every time we do a show, because people like to make a night of it. Plus, gas stations benefit, babysitters benefit. You know, there's a whole trickle-down economic benefit to us doing shows. But for the audience, it's an uplift. It's like a soul connector for people, because they come into the theater, you know, with anticipation and excitement, but 99% of the time they leave high off whatever it is they saw, whether it was a classical performance or rock and roll or a reading. It doesn't matter. It takes them to some other place, and that's important in the world. It's, you know, we didn't invent culture, the Greeks did, and they did it for a really good reason, you know, because it moves people, it makes people better.
What are the events you have coming up then?
I'm glad you asked. Well, coming right up for this, Caesar Milan, the Dog Whisperer, is coming April 6th. That's selling very fast, so if you haven't gotten tickets yet, you should get them.
Now, is that people only, that show?
People only, thank you. Yes, no dogs allowed. Caesar will bring a couple of dogs himself, and he'll do a demo, and it'll be intermission, and then he's going to do Q&A after. We just booked Willie Nelson. He's coming in May 13th. Gordon Lightfoot's coming in May also. Levon Helm will be doing his annual birthday bash in late May. We just added G. Love and the Wood Brothers to that show, and also there's always surprises. You never know who might drop in. Creed, we just booked, end of April. Joan Rivers is coming. Who am I forgetting? Oh, the Hudson Valley Philharmonic is doing this huge Vannevar Caravan explosion of dance and music, March 31. What else? Tons of stuff. I mean, it really never stops.
And you have movies too, you show.
Yeah, we have movies. We do show classic movies. We show Metropolitan Opera live broadcasts. We have a lot of rentals from community groups, Catskill Ballet, Ulster Ballet. They do great work on our stage every season, really. And there'll be surprises. I mean, we're always looking for terrific acts.
When you're booking those terrific acts, how are you factoring in the area? Like, you know, from Creed to Gordon Lightfoot, that's a...
Yeah,
you know.
well, that says the area. That's the area. I mean, it's, you know, people... You know, the Hudson Valley is amazing. I mean, it has a huge cross-section of people. It's very eclectic. And so people can like everything from Creed to Gordon Lightfoot to Willie to Joan Rivers. You know, we'll probably pack the house for every single one of those shows because that audience is here and they come from a distance.
And you get to see all the shows.
Yeah, I love seeing the shows and meeting the artists. And some of them are just, like Tony Bennett, we just had at the Bardavon last weekend. What a sweetheart he was. I mean, and some of them are incredibly personable and want to hang out with you. Bill Cosby, for instance, when we went to meet him in the dressing room, he asked Isla and I, the house manager, sit down, join me. And he just wanted to talk. And so we just hung out with Bill, you know, and then we had people coming backstage. He wanted to hang out with everybody. So it was, you know, it's like that, you know, they're all different. But
though the ultimate perk was Bob Dylan renting the Bardavon.
That's heaven.
Tell us that story.
Well, 3 times they rented the hall over a period of a couple of years.
To rehearse, right?
To rehearse. The first time he was writing Modern Times, and I got to sit in the wings and watch him create new work, which I never in my life would think I would get to do that. And it was fascinating to watch how he puts together his songs. And then the other 2 times were straight rehearsals. But the third time, and I don't know how this happened, but I was hanging out in the alley, and he likes to go for walks, and he came up to me, right up to me, and said, "What's happening, man?" And I said, "What do you mean, Bob?" And he said, "Where's all the black people?" I said, "What do you mean? They're here. You just don't see them." And so we started talking about gentrification, and which apparently is a favorite subject to his. And we had 3 30-minute conversations during that week. And when he left, he thanked me. He practically hugged me. I was like in love, you know. And yeah, that was a mind blower. That I will always remember.
Tell me about the immediate future for UPAC beyond these shows that we're talking about. Is it the HVAC that's important to get fixed?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually tonight. I'm going to Kingston to ask for money for to fix the 2 columns that hold the portico, the entrance of the theater. They're collapsing, and I'm looking for support. There's always something.
Terrific, and there's always great events at UPAC.
Yep.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
This is Kingston Now, and next we're going to talk to a movement in Kingston to bring free movies to city parks this summer. Stay with us.